Welcome to Alex Nanny, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today by Eric Goldreyer, who is the CEO and owner of BnBFinder. Eric, so good to see you today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be with you, ladies.
Thanks so much for joining us. So I got a chance to meet you recently at the Skift event, and I'm excited that we just signed you guys on as one of our channel partners at NextPax. A lot of things going on there, but I was really intrigued to learn a lot about you and your background and how our paths actually kind of crossed many, many years ago. So I would love for you to tell everybody your backstory and how you ended up at BnBFinder.
Sure, it's crazy. How much time do we have again? No, I'm teasing. but it feels like an eternity. I mean, it's been amazing because anytime you get the chance to do what we do in an industry that you love, I feel blessed. I think it all started when my wife and I were dating before we got married, and we've been married 34 years. So I'll give you the abbreviated version. But we liked staying in bed and breakfasts. And this was back pre-internet, and you literally had to get guidebooks and research every individual listing and find the one that had the hot tub and that was on the beach. And then by the time you called them, they were out of business because the data was 2 years old or they were booked. And so cut to the chase, we ended up creating a website called BnBFinders.com. And we built it to be the leading website for true bed and breakfasts in the world. We also had the leading property management software that innkeepers use to sell rooms on their website, sell rooms through BnBFinders.com. But we also created the first CNRES or central reservation system where they then could distribute out to Expedia, Travelocity, and the OTAs.
Oh, wow.
Sold that in 99 to a company called WorldRes, which at the time was a competitor to what is now hotels.com, but at the time was the Hotel Reservations Network, which was a call center. I ran it for them for 3 years, ended up buying it back. They didn't make it. A little flaw in their business model. After raising $100 million, they unfortunately went out of business. But I got BnBFinders.com back and focused on our niche. And we continued to build it and had a lot of fun. And we were getting ready to sort of roll into international. At the time, our largest market was actually Rome. We had more listings in Rome than any other location in the world. And we were approached by Carl Shepard and Brian Sharples at HostAway. And they wanted to acquire it. And we're like, not for sale. Long story short, after a year, ended up selling the business to them. Stepped down. My kids at the time were 12, 10, and 7, so I got to be a dad and really focus on my family for a bit. And then just saw the opportunity to do something else in the space and ended up co-founding a company called TurnKey Vacation Rentals with one of my best buds, John Banzak. And we brought in a guy, TJ Clark, to run it. And I was on the board, but not sort of day to day in it. Got to sort of see where things were going in the vacation rental space. John and I own still today an inn just outside of Austin, a 20-room boutique inn called Sage Hill Inn and Spa. And so was getting to sort of see what was happening in the industry from the supply side through my role at TurnKey on the board and through our ownership of Sage Hill Inn and Spa, and just saw what had happened when HostAway then sold to Expedia 2015. And over the next few years, properties were forced to really participate in real-time reservations at a commission or fee structure. You could no longer, as the owner of Sage Hill, I couldn't spend $100 or $200 a month and advertise and own that relationship with the guest and not pay commissions, not pay fees. I had to pay commissions, and it got really, really expensive. And so we just thought, okay, homeowners and property management companies are sort of getting, that's the right word. This is a podcast. Squeezed. Thank you. It's tough. I mean, because your largest channel becomes your most expensive channel. And when you create these intermediaries, you're creating someone else that's owning that relationship with the guest. And so they're sort of disintermediating you from your guest. And I thought, you know what, we have the background and the experience to fix this. And so we acquired an existing website, BnBFinder, that has been around since 1998. A lady, Mary White, founded it, and she passed away from brain cancer, unfortunately. We bought it from her in 2019, rebuilt, put a real technology stack in place, and spent the first few years really just dialing it in for actual bed and breakfast. And then we thought, okay, it's time to really roll into the vacation rental space. And so just over a year ago, maybe 13 and a half months ago, we finally sort of announced that we're coming into the vacation rental space. And, in the last year, we've added over 100,000 vacation rentals to the website from about 1,500 different property management companies. So it's been fun. I think what we're doing is resonating with property managers on the supply side and will resonate with travelers on the demand side. We haven't really gone into the demand generation side yet because we really needed to get enough critical mass of listings on the site for it to make sense for us to go out and say, hey, travelers, come check us out.
Wow. Well, you've done a lot in the space and seen a lot of things over the years and how much has changed. But I'm interested now. I mean, on the B&B Finder, there's so many different OTAs out there. What would you say is the biggest differentiator between B&B Finder versus the competition?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, I really think that's where we shine. I mean, because you're right. You've got the big guys. You've got Airbnb, you've got Verba, you've got Booking. You've got Homes to Go, Meta site that has all of those and some others. Our angle is really we're the OTA for property managers. So our value prop to travelers and why we think travelers are going to come to us is we only list professionally hosted properties. So whether it's an innkeeper with a bed and breakfast, a boutique hotelier with a hotel, or a property manager with a vacation rental, we don't list verbos on our site. So as a traveler, you've got a peace of mind knowing that the property is going to exist. It's not going to be a ghost listing because we probably all remember when Airbnb back last November pulled 59,000 fake listings off their site.
Yeah.
I think it was early this year, but I think they had verified 1.5 million of their 7.7 million listings. So we think that the Furbo market is more ripe for fraud. And we also feel that property managers can provide across the board a higher level of hospitality than an individual homeowner. Not to say that there aren't some amazingly great off the chart individual homeowner hosts out there. But across the board, we think that if you look at the SCIF data from the short-term rental conference in New York a couple of weeks ago, 76% of travelers are looking for professionally hosted properties. It's the Starbucks. People want to know what they're going to get. They want to know that if the Bluetooth lock isn't working, they're not stuck outside of their place at 11 o'clock at night because the person they rented their place from is, in Europe on vacation or something like that. There's a professional to call. So that's one leg of the stool on the value prop to travelers. And the other one is that we don't have service fees. So, we all see all the negative press about fees. It adds anywhere from 15 to 20+% to the cost of a stay. We don't have fees. So when a traveler comes to B&B Finder and they find a property they like, one, they're getting the same rate they would get on the property manager's site directly. And two, they're not going to pay us a service fee like they'd pay on the other OTAs. That 15 to 20% savings means that they can travel more often, upgrade to a place on the water or on the ski hill. They can stay an extra night. They can bring in a chef. They can take the group out to dinner, whatever it is. But it leaves more money in the traveler's pocket to maybe even buy their airfare or pay for their gas to get there. But we think allows them to have more value and put the money where it affects the memories and the experience that they have versus just paying it for the convenience of being able to make a reservation. So it's fees and it's professional managed properties.
I wanted to ask you about the B&B component because, again, you started out bedandbreakfast.com, and that's a very niche type of
Absolutely.
management. And you mentioned that, they were forced into an ecosystem that was really outside their comfort zone. And I remember I was at Expedia and worked, the ladies that worked for you, Sarah Schusta, and worked with the B&B account and learned a lot about bed and breakfast. I just had no idea how complex it was. And it is sort of similar to vacation rentals because they're all unique. They all have different styles. They all have different, looks and feels and things that they like to do. But going back to that time and these bed and breakfast being forced into like the larger ecosystem of distribution, do you think that they adapted? And, if they didn't adapt, did they go out of business, or is there a whole nother world that bed and breakfast operated in until you came out with B&B Finder?
I would say I don't think they really did adapt. If you look at the number of bed and breakfasts, and I'm not so sure how much of it is tied to the distribution and the cost of distribution versus the overall landscape of vacation rentals weren't as much of a thing back in 2010, 2012. And I think vacation rentals have filled a need that the market has and wants. And I think you've seen a lot of people that were running inns just decide, you know what, this is a lot of hard work. And instead of turning all these individual rooms and cooking breakfast and doing all these things. I'm just going to turn my bed and breakfast into a vacation rental, or I'm going to just make it my home, or I'm going to sell it. I haven't seen data, but there were 10 to 12,000 bed and breakfasts in the US back in 2010. I would guess now that there's 3 or 4,000. You just don't see them like you used to.
That's what I was going to say. I typically, you have to really go look for them if it gets in your mind. And there's pockets of them around the country where there's certain communities, because they're historic communities or what have you, that have a concentration of them. But it does seem
That's
that
right.
they've kind of passed. And I hate that, because I think that a lot of these bed breakfasts were very charming and, again, historical, they got you to communities that you weren't typically going to.
Absolutely
That's
agree.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
you even see that here, right? If you're in San Antonio or Fredericksburg, you'll see a good amount of bed and breakfasts, but you're also seeing a lot more vacation rentals. I know that a lot of the bed and breakfasts that were here in Austin, Carrington's Bluff and others, they're no longer bed and breakfasts.
Interesting. I'm curious too on your days at TurnKey and what that experience was like as a board member, and then what you saw as the company obviously sold to Vacasa. Were you still involved at that point and on the board?
The industry at large has a lot of opinions about how that played out and where Vacasa is. What are your thoughts looking back on it? Like, what maybe they could have done differently?
Well, looking back on it, one, I wish we wouldn't have sold it, obviously. What could they have done differently? Look, there's a lot of people smarter than me in the room when that decision was made. TurnKey, we had raised outside money from some tier A venture capitalists, and they were at the table. Obviously, John and TJ, myself, Carl Shepard. I think we all felt it was the right thing to do for our investors at the time. A lot of our investors were in that decision, making that decision. I think we were told that one thing was going to happen, which was, hey, we're going to acquire you guys and we're going to leverage that amazing tech stack that you guys have built across our broader portfolio of properties. And somewhere between what we were told and what happened and what was executed, the ball got dropped because Vacasa did not distribute our technology, our being TurnKey's technology, out. And it's one of those things where we were told one thing and that didn't actually become what was executed. So I think, yes, could it have been done better? The acquisition, 100%. I think some poor decisions were made. There was some bad management in place at the time. I think some improvements to the management happened. John is a solid operations CEO. He's a great guy and he can really run a good business. Don't think he fully had the opportunity to. Obviously he didn't. He wasn't in charge. And so I just think that, maybe the strategic decisions weren't made and the consistent direction wasn't given for the team to execute on potentially. I mean, look, hindsight's awesome, isn't it? It's hard to deconstruct it and reconstruct it. We certainly built something of value at TurnKey, and we'll see what happens with Vacasa.
It's always interesting when you have businesses that take the approach of bringing people in that are not experienced at all within that type of an industry. And I think sometimes that can work to get creative ideas and bring in, different levels of innovation. But in our business, I think it has to be, you can have some of those people on the team, but you have to have that level of experience because it's just such a nuanced business. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, the history of why things are the way that they are is important to understand. And it seems like some of the changes that they've made at Vacasa, I think they've got just too many people that have just really not a lot of experience within this industry.
I think that's a fair comment, Alex. I think, that's one of the things that gets me excited about what we're doing at BnBFinder. I mean, among our team, we don't put this on the website or anything because people would be like, okay, that's bogus. But we've got like over 100 years of experience in internet travel. I mean, myself, I've got, almost 30 years of experience in it. Any tribal knowledge in any industry is valuable for sure.
So tell us about BnBFinder. You took some time off. You did some cool things. We started talking a little bit about it's not an inflatable company because it's
bouncy houses. We don't do bouncy houses.
Not give it the credit where the credit is due, but I do want to go to Monaco with you.
Yes, exactly. I'm finally getting my wife to go this year, like for the first
nice.
time. Yeah.
So tell us about that business because that's in between TurnKey and BnBFinder, but you still have it, or is that sometime?
I still own it, and okay. I started it in September of 2013, which was just after we had started TurnKey. But I wasn't involved day to day with TurnKey, and so I had time. And it was really, as I said, the reason I sold BnBFinders.com was so I could spend time with my kids who are 12, 10, and 7. And I'm a big kid myself, and so we were building a dock on Lake Austin, and we were trying to think about how we make it more exciting and fun. And we thought, if we had a slide off the roof of the second floor, that would be fun. And City of Austin is very hard to get permits for. They're sort of known for being really hard to get anything through. So we thought, why don't we just come up with like a portable slide, an inflatable slide? Did some research into it, discovered an opportunity in the yacht space. Being someone that had sold my business to spend time with my kids, I'm a big believer in friends and family having time together to create memories, right? It's sort of what we're about in hospitality at BnBFinder and what property managers are enabling. And the thought of creating a product that got kids off their devices and away from screens and out in the sun and in the water and having fun, and everyone creating memories with friends and family was appealing. So we came up with funair.com. We are the leading manufacturer of custom inflatables for mega yachts. We build, slides off of the bridge deck that are 35, I think are the highest slide in the world we did. And it was 55 feet off the water, off the top of a ship. I mean, it was crazy. Like, I'm not sure I'm going down it. Now I would.
Yeah, you would.
I'd wear like a wetsuit or something. But, yeah, and we do netted pools. When a yacht is on the hook, as they call it, or on anchor, it's swinging with the wind on anchor if it doesn't have a GPS anchor that keeps it perfectly still. And you don't want your guests to be swimming off the back of the yacht and the yacht gets blown over here and now you've got swimmers 100 yards away. So we just make things to make yachts, our taglines are, we don't make yachts, we make yachts fun, sort of tongue in cheek. And we make toys for your toys. So a yacht's a toy. We make toys for their toys so their yachts are more fun and they can just have better memories on their yachts.
I just pulled up the website and I'm absolutely in love. I think this is a fabulous concept.
There's a lot of eye candy there.
You have to visually look at it as funair.com.
Sure.
But not only the slides, but the pool that you can make like just tied up to the boat too. That's really cool.
We call that the beach club pool because a lot of yachts on the back, they've got the 3 to 5 feet to hang out. And it's like, that's not enough space. Right. So, you may have a 175-foot yacht. It's not big enough for a pool. It could have a hot tub.
Right.
And people want to swim and they really want to be at the water level. So we have those big inflatable pools that come off the back that are netted so they keep the Portuguese man of war, the jellyfish away. They give you a place to hang out down at the water level. So if you're jet skiing, sea bobbing, e-foiling, you've got a place to get on and off of those toys. The tender can come alongside, tender up to the inflatable. It helps the crew. The crew doesn't love us because these things aren't super light. Hey, if you've got a 175-foot yacht, you've got a crew of 11 people on your boat. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, climbing walls, everything. That's really cool. Very interesting. What a different business compared to the ones that you had run before and even the one that you run now.
Yes, completely different, but something just was passionate about and just thought, hey, this could be fun. No pun intended, funair.
What's the hardest part of that business, would you say?
I think the hardest part of it is you're literally manufacturing every product that you sell.
Yeah.
And manufacturing anywhere is hard. In Guangzhou, China, which is where we manufacture, it's really hard. I mean, you literally have to spec every single thing or it will be built wrong. And then you have to have someone on the ground over there completely double check all the measurements and all the strength of everything and the welds and stuff on the QA. So when you look at a business like BedandBreakfast.com, not TurnKey so much, but BedandBreakfast.com and what we're doing now at BnBFinder, infinitely more scalable, right? We can build a technology platform that ultimately will allow travelers to find professionally hosted vacation rentals and not pay fees. And whether we have 100,000 or 1 million or 10 million listings, fairly similar as far as your infrastructure. But when you've got a product that you're getting it's called the general architecture, but the architectural rendering of a yacht, and building a product to the centimeter, it's just a lot of work. And, that business will never scale to be, the size of the business that it is today. It can grow 20, 30% a year. It'll never grow more than 50% a year, probably, right? Which a business like BedandBreakfast.com, an OTA, BnBFinder can. You just got to get the flywheel going.
Well, it's a niche too, because not everybody has a yacht. So small group of people to target there. But
I wanted to do an ad just because we like to do, tongue-in-cheek stuff. I think I mentioned, our taglines, we don't make yachts, we make yachts fun, and we make toys for your toys. We were going to do an ad that was buy a slide, get a yacht free. But the slide's like $49 million. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So you've been doing that. So obviously you're not someone to sit still. It seems like you've got to be moving constantly, right?
Same reason I don't like golf. I got to be moving. Yeah.
We'll be back in just a minute after a word from our premier brand sponsor, HostAway.
My name is Nate Klatt, and I am a co-founder of HomeHop Property Management. We currently have 55 units based in Cleveland, Ohio, and we've been in business for the last 3 years. So my partner and I originally were using a different property management software, and as we started to take on more clients, the scalability really broke. We weren't able to generate owner statements automatically. The listings didn't sync up properly. We started doing more research. We found HostAway and have been extremely satisfied with HostAway. Everything syncs properly. We're able to quickly give owner statements. Owners have the ability to see the calendar. Really just to streamline our processes and probably saved our team 50% of the workload that we saw with our previous property management software. One of the cool things about HostAway is that they're always adding new features. So one of the features they recently released is an AI feature that allows HostAway to automatically create the listing descriptions, to create photo descriptions, etc., in order to optimize your listing. One of the other big deciding factors for us, along with the great features, was the ability to really have a reasonably priced package. So HostAway worked with us based on our listing count and ultimately ended up being about half the cost of some of the other providers out there while still providing all the great features, which was a major selling point for us. The customer support has been fantastic. If we have any kind of issues, they're always quick to respond, usually within an hour. The follow-ups are always great. And again, the piece that I like the most is they're always rolling out new features, which has been a blessing. Anyone that's looking to scale and grow a business, I highly recommend looking at HostAway. And again, this goes back to what is your goal? If your goal is to grow this business, HostAway can scale with you. If your goal is to have 3 to 5 units, might not be as necessary. But again, if your goal is to scale, you really need to find a software that's going to scale with you, which HostAway does.
Ready to go pro? Learn why thousands of property managers are using HostAway to take their vacation rental business to the next level.
Visit get.hostaway.com/Alex and Annie and get started today.
I think any entrepreneur that you see opportunity and you see things that you're like, oh, wow, that'd be something that people could use and that people need. And that would be fun to do. And it's like, it's hard to sit around when you know that you can bring a solution to market that would resonate. It's cool this time because with BnBFinder, I mean, when I launched BedandBreakfast.com, innkeepers didn't know what the internet was.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're out there at state bed and breakfast conferences talking to the innkeepers, and like, well, we get all of our business on guidebooks. We don't need the internet. We're like, no, it's going to change. You need to, oh, no. So we had to really educate everybody, right?
Yeah.
Now, everyone knows what the OTAs are about. They know what vacation rentals are. And if you look at our own data or the Skift data, people want value. They're sick of fees. And they want professionally hosted properties. So here we are bringing an OTA to the market that's unlike anything anybody else is doing in the space that we think really resonates with all the data that we've seen put out from the industry pundit folks.
On that stat, what was it, 76 or 96%, did you say, that wants professionally managed?
76, that's the
76.
Skift data.
Yeah. And it's interesting, though, because I feel like, I mean, just the perception around professional versus non-professional is, it continues to evolve and change. And a lot of the smaller Airbnb hosts have built up pretty professional, small businesses around their portfolio, even if it's just one property. And I just wonder, and we've talked about doing an episode like this, like a panel of guests come on. I just want to know from them, is it that you want a company, you really want a professionally managed vacation rental company to rent from? And there's plenty that probably do think that. Or do you just want the place that you're staying to offer professional services? There's a difference there. And I think as travelers have changed so much since Airbnb, to me, I don't feel like people are saying I'd have to stay with a vacation rental company as much anymore. They just want a nice place. They want a nice place that's well maintained. They can get in touch with the host or property management company very easily. I know it's a big debate across the industry right now, but it's hard to quantify,
It is. And I think it's a totally fair point. And I think you're right. I'm not so sure that travelers want a property management company. but they want a professionally managed property.
Exactly. Yeah.
What they want, people don't want Starbucks. They want to
Right.
know what coffee they have and what
Mm-hmm.
their offering is, right? So what are people afraid of, right? What keeps them awake? What causes anxiety when they use those sites? It's, well, first of all, is this a real listing?
Yeah.
Am
Mm-hmm.
I going to arrive with my family at 11 o'clock across the country at
Yeah.
night and it's a 7-Eleven where I thought the house was going to be? Or I'm going to
Right.
knock on
Yeah.
someone's door and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? We're not on that site because someone
Yeah.
created a fake listing. Secondly, they want to know, is it going to be as advertised? Was that a 2-degree fish angle lens that made it look
Mm-hmm.
like the room's huge and it's really a New York, closet? They want to know that someone's going to be there in case the AC is not working, in case the hot water heater goes out, you name it. And I think currently, we've got ratings and reviews as an internet thing. Those help. There's nothing to say that all property managers are professional.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I promise you, there are some bad property managers. At bedandbreakfast.com back in the day, we had a 3-strike you're out rule. If we got a serious complaint, like we dug in and it's like, hey, this is legit 3 times, we would pull a bed and breakfast off the site because we're like, you're doing a disservice to the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know you're paying us $200 a month. We don't care. You're going to get people to think that B&Bs are lousy.
Mm-hmm.
So we as an industry have to do some self-policing. We can have tools that allow travelers to rate a property manager, but I don't think there's any true black and white. There's shades of gray. We're making the assumption that if you're a property manager and you're earning your living doing this, that you're going to go out of your way to make sure that you provide an amazing level of hospitality and an amazing stay.
Yeah.
And we feel that gives travelers a peace of mind over the randomness of one-off for rent by owners. And as I said earlier in this podcast, there's some amazing individual hosts out there. Call them super hosts, call them awesome hosts, whatever you want to call them. It's just on average, I would think a PM is going to give a better overall experience.
Yeah. I think the concept of Innkeeper is also really interesting. And it makes me think about, we've had Pete DeMeo on our show a few times now. He's with Travel Boom Marketing that specializes in hotel marketing, but they do have bed and breakfast. And he talks about the concept of, if you're the hotel manager or if you're the property management company general manager, to act more like you are an innkeeper and like be from that position of, it is your duty to make sure that these guests have an amazing stay, that you are looking out for them before they even know anything could be an issue, that you're just really there to kind of shepherd the experience to be something that feels, curated and like they truly are a guest within your property, home, hotel, B&B, whatever the case may be. So it's fun to hear you say that a lot, because I think that's just a term that isn't really talked about a whole lot within, our industry these days, but it's also, there's a lot behind what an innkeeper truly means.
Was the term that you're referring to hospitality?
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I stayed at our inn with my wife last night, right? And sometimes it's just hard for me to go down there because I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
And I show up and it's like, guys, this is out of place. You got to be a little OCD. I mean, I think the more OCD you are, the better of a job you can do as a host, regardless of what type of host you are, because your job is to think about everything that person could need before they do it.
Exactly.
And make sure it's there. Right. So they're like, oh man, I need a Kleenex. Oh gosh, there's some right there. Or, oh, it's right there. Reading lights, whatever. And yeah, it's funny how you don't find that. And I think just like in the bed and breakfast industry with innkeepers, you're going to have a graph of great ones, not so great ones, and all those in the middle.
Right.
I'm sure it's the same with property management companies.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, relative to kind of the experiential part of how people manage properties and the size of managers. What was one of the things that came up was the last session that was at Skift. And it's really stuck with me because I knew the gentleman that was part of the panel, Philip Kernard of Future Stay, and he's been a friend of mine and Alex's for several years. And he works a lot with these smaller operators. And so again, to Alex's point, a lot of conversation about what does professionalization look like? How do we get standards? How do we, how do we make sure that people are doing good service to the industry? All of these things. But the challenge that we have, like I think on the traditional professional side of the business, is that the vast majority of the industry in the US specifically, and they touched on this, is these people that have less than, 5 to 10 units. And so how do we get out to them to ensure that, one, they have access to the information? And so Alex and I have been very big champions of education. Like, how do we ensure that, you can take a horse to water, but you got to make it, how do you get it to drink? It's like, well, first we got to get them to the water. And a lot of these people, Alex and I have been on some panels, some webinars and things where the people are asking these questions, basic information that they just don't even know where to go get that information. So
Mhm.
I think there is a need to work with those, what you would say is professional, but how do we get those people that want to be professional, but they don't know how to be professional, to know what professionalization looks like?
Well, I mean, question or challenge, right?
Yeah.
You can't force a horse to drink, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to go back to your metaphor, you could put them in a trailer and take them to the water, but you can't make them drink. And that's what associations are for, right? Their job is to set standards and educate the industry to bring it up, but you're not going to be able to force everyone to do that. Our job becomes helping people cull the professional ones from the non-professional ones, because you can't make everyone be professional. That could be above their mental capacity. They may not have any desire. They may not, just even want to go there. So I think you provide the tools for those that want to do better and learn, and then you help travelers understand the difference. I mean, right, I would go back to Verma. If Verma had some type of accreditation, then property managers could get the Verma accreditation, and then there's the stamp.
They do have that. Yeah, because I don't think it means that's part of the problem of, like, what does that mean to the average guest that they see that logo? They don't know what Verma is.
But that's a part of what they've got to do.
Yeah,
If it
yeah,
doesn't stand
absolutely.
for anything for the traveler, then it's not really worth
Right, then
anything.
what's the point? Yeah, I agree.
So many questions, not enough
Yeah.
answers. It's a challenge. And I think that that's where, we got to keep throwing that challenge out there, and we'll either rise to it or find another challenge to
Well, look, the
face.
market will solve it, right?
Yeah, true.
If property managers that truly get professional and do the right thing do better than those that don't, more of those that don't will say, I need to do that.
And I think there's more of the ones that want to than the ones that don't want to,
Yeah, I
or at
agree.
least, I mean,
That's
that's,
fair. Yeah.
we don't really run into a whole lot of these bad apples too
Right.
often,
Right.
but
Yeah.
they're probably trying to stay away from, trying to access this, or they don't put the emphasis or care to. But, a lot of the people, like Annie mentioned, that are in these sessions with us, like they're thirsty for the information, and they don't know where to start, but at least they're starting. And it's like, any of the people, the three of us included, we all had to start somewhere at some point too. I remember when I first started at Condo World 15 years ago, I thought that we owned all the properties. I had absolutely no idea. And I think if you ask the average vacationer if they rent from a professional property management business, they're
They think
probably
they
going
own
to
them.
think the same thing too.
Yeah, they
So,
do. They
yeah,
really do.
it's a fun business, a lot of different ways to do it, but
It is. It's a fun
yeah,
business. And,
yeah,
the more we can help the industry, the better off everybody is, from
yeah.
the supplier to the homeowner to the traveler.
Where do you see B&B Finder going future? I mean, obviously you've got a lot of listings now. I mean, you've partnered with NextPacks for distribution. So, we're going to try to bring our partners to you. But where do you see B&B Finder? You're pretty much in the US now, but I think there's plans to branch out internationally.
Sure, sure. Well, to create a marketplace, we're no good to travelers until we have supply. So we've really focused the first year on getting property managers and their listings on our site. Feel like we were successful in doing that. We'll obviously continue to do that, and we'll add more APIs to channel managers and property management software providers to make it super easy for property managers to participate in distributing and getting awareness on B&B Finder. Now that we have enough listings, we got to make sure that the product works for mainstream, because it hasn't. It's been a product, but it was really a product for early adopters and innovators that were like, wow, I'm going to save 20%. I'm okay with a not totally great website because I'm saving 20% and I'm getting a professionally hosted property. Right now, we're moving the process on our site from when you come to Austin, for example, and you find a vacation rental that you want to stay in. What used to happen is you'd click on the book it button and we'd send you to the property manager's website, right? Well, that's a little bit of a jarring experience for a traveler. Not all property manager websites are well done. So not a great UX or user experience. We've got about half of our listings now. You book them on our site. We're not the merchant of record. We securely collect all the booking information. We pass it through the API to the PMS and on to the PM to make the reservation. So the PM is the merchant of record. It's their reservation. It's their customer. But as far as a traveler goes, they're making a reservation on our site just like they would on one of the big OTAs. So we expect that that'll work better for the mainstream customers. Probably by the end of next month, the vast majority of our listings on our site will have it full end-to-end booking, full real-time rates. We didn't have rate filters on our site till last week. We had average daily rates because that's what we were getting through the API from the PMS. So we have to go in API by API, PMS by PMS, and upgrade those so that someone can come in and say, hey, I'm looking for Austin, Texas, July 1st through the 5th, and this is how much money I want to spend. Just show me those properties. We couldn't do that till a week ago today. So now that we have the functionality, we need to go in and upgrade the user experience so it's a little cleaner use of the tool. But so we'll continue to work on supply. Now that the product is almost there, we'll continue to work on the product. But really, what's next for us is to start to lean into the travel awareness, right? We did a survey. We had 681 respondents that were 25 years of age or older and had stayed in a vacation rental in the last 12 months. And we asked, if you were aware of a website like Airbnb or Vrbo that didn't charge service fees, would you use it? And 61% of people said they were highly likely to use it. Almost two thirds. 30% said they were likely to use it, almost another third. That's almost everyone.
I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean,
Yeah.
who says, no, I'm good. I'm happy
Yeah.
paying fees. I'll stay right here.
You'll look at the McKinsey data that shows that, millennials and the willingness to change brands if there's better value. You look at the trend towards better value. I mean, 75% of people are spending as much money or more than they spent last year on travel, but they're still looking for value, right? So as we go to pivot towards travelers, we're excited because the data shows that they clearly want it. Now we've got to go out and let people know that we exist because we haven't been able to really drive business to PMs yet because we didn't have anything to show travelers to get them to start coming to the site. So that'll now pick up.
It's a chicken and egg situation.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Eric. We're super excited to watch your journey. And I know with Annie working with you now, I'll also get a semi-front seat to hear about how everything's going.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Annie, back to your comment on international. That's probably Q1 of next year.
Okay.
We were approached by one of the top 5 largest PMs in Europe that wanted to get on now. And we're like, hey, we're not ready. Let's get you set up. So what we'll try to do is get that one ready, and then let's go get the other top 5. So when we roll into international, we can launch another 200,000 listings.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I love it. And I think just getting to know your team and knowing that we have some back history with each other that we really didn't know existed. It kind of felt like old home week. So it's great.
That was cool.
Yeah. So your team is amazing. You've got a lot of really smart people working with you. You're an incredible leader. You've got a lot of energy. And I think that's just evident in how you relate to people. And Alex and I, we love to cheer on the people that kind of speak to our soul with the energy and love. Yeah. So we're excited.
Well, fabulous. Thank you for those words. And it's a fun industry to be in. And when you get to work day in and day out with like-minded people that are fun, it makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We agree with that. Eric, if our audience wants to get in touch with you and find out more about BnBFinder, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Finding out about BnBFinder, it's all on the website, BnBFinder.com. If they're trying to reach out to me, it's Eric, ERIC, at BnBFinder.com.
Well, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, if anybody wants to get in touch with Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in, everyone.